World Book Day. Um, Books are celebrated all over the world on this day. So we are also celebrating it. The Pondicherry Book Club is celebrating it by inviting Thorvi to our on this day to talk about her book. It's a book which can be read by anybody, and people can benefit from it. There are many points which we generally don't think about, but she draws our attention to them. So I would now ask her to talk about her book.
Thank you, Sunayana ji, for this opportunity. So, In Two Minds, this is the name of the book, and this book is around decision making and my experience with tarot and how tarot can help you in decision making. So nowadays in this world, I think what we are dealing with most is decision fatigue, and this is something that is so common, but then it's not really recognized. We take so many decisions in a day that by the time that it's required to make a critical decision, our brains are already tired, and that is the reason that many people get stuck in decision fatigue and decision paralysis, and even small decisions, or especially critical life decisions, they're not able to really go through, and then they're just stuck in this loop. And how tools like tarot, which are intuitive, can help you to break through the decision paralysis and help you take right decisions in life. So past few years, 8-9 years that I have been working with clients with tarot and helping them, and that's where this book got conceived, this idea that there are a lot of questions which are very common that are asked, so why not write a book about it.
So could you read something from your book for us?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a part, chapter 2 of the book, and so here goes. Factors keeping you stressed. Identify and remove the weeds that are stopping you from your true potential. They are not as harmless as they seem. If you take away only one thing from this book, let it be around decision fatigue, how it is keeping you mediocre, and how tarot can be the helping hand. Let us go back to Geeta, our developer friend from the last chapter. She wondered why she reacted so much to a simple question by her mother. In itself, it was harmless, but it was the last snowball added to an avalanche that was already forming. What Geeta was experiencing was decision fatigue. When questions like what to cook and what to wear overwhelm you, the very thought of one more thing to decide makes you feel like you will explode. Know that you're facing decision fatigue. It is when our brains are tired from the thousands of decisions we are being forced to make each day. That's right, we make thousands of decisions each day. So, when I was doing research for this book, even I was a little taken aback that we take thousands of decisions, and I'm like, no, we don't. But even the smallest of decision, what to cook, what to wear, that for the brain, it's the same amount of effort that's required.
You see, that's why if you look at all the photos of Steve Jobs, he always wears the same clothes.
Exactly.
Same pair of jeans. You will think that poor man, he doesn't have any clothes.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, this is what it is. He has just cut out that stress from his life of what am I going to wear. If I wear the same thing every day, my mind could focus on something else.
It makes a lot of difference, even the tiniest of decisions that you can then delegate or make it non-existent.
Great. Can you read us something else?
Yes. So now involving tarot cards, right? Because till now we've been talking only about decisions, and but tarot cards, how can they help you? So the imagery in tarot cards, that is what connects to our minds, and it's kind of universal. So if you show a picture of a young mother with a child to anyone across the globe, they're going to think of motherhood and nurturing, right? Now, how is that possible? There's education factors, there's language, everything. So there's this universal connection that we have with images, and that is what tarot uses. So I would like to read, I've written about the card Death. which has been really misinterpreted, especially in our movies and in our TV shows, that if a tarot card reader takes out the death card, that means someone's going to die, but that's not the case at all. So let me just read about that. Okay, so the death card. One of the famous cards used in media, television and movies to create a sensation. This is one of the cards that can cause a lot of strife if not interpreted the right way. The card shows a skeletal figure in a knight's armor on a white horse. He holds a black flag with a white rose on it. He is almost walking over the dead, laying on the ground, and a bishop in golden robes is standing in front of him, holding his hands together in prayer. A young child is standing beside him, but he is not afraid of the figure on the horse. There appears to be a woman kneeling beside him, looking away as if in grief. In the background, you can see a river, and beyond it, the sun is rising in all its glory between two towers. So let me make it very clear. No one can predict death. Even if a highly intuitive person has the ability to predict death, this is not something one must aspire to know. Spiritually inclined individuals will never predict someone's death, and personally, I do not take cards for this. But you won't believe there have been clients in the past who wanted to know when they will die, so that has been something. Curiosity about birth and death is natural, but knowing one's death may not make life any easier. Now that this is clear, the death card represents transformation, not physical death. It represents the transformation that demands sacrifice and patience. Transformation itself is the death of the old version and the birth of the new version, like the phoenix bird that is said to shed all its feathers and then become ash. And from this ash, it arises again as a young newborn phoenix.
So, you said that just now you said that a lot of people come to ask you about the how or when they will die. So, what are the usual questions that people come with to you?
Right. So the usual questions are about job, because there are people who don't know whether they should leave their job, whether they should start business, whether they should or they have two job offers. So which one to choose. And a usual tarot reader, normal tarot reader would just take a card and say, hey, choose A, choose B. But my approach is not like that. What I do is I go through each option. So why this and why not this? And then in the end, I let the client decide, because tarot cannot take the decision for you. It can only guide you. So that is something. Relationships, that is another major thing, especially marriage, divorce, separation, child custody. So there are these serious questions as well. And also relocation, that is another thing which is quite common, because there are, say someone wants to, move to 2 or 3 different cities or countries that they have in their mind, and they don't know what to choose, where to apply and why. So that is another very big question that I address.
So we are going to take a question from the audience, and it's a very interesting question. It's been asked by Dr. Deep Sharma, who is the head of the orthopedic surgery department in Jitmer, and he said that he read your book and he was very much impressed by this concept of decision fatigue, because it's something he could relate to, because in the day he would take thousands of decisions concerning things that had very deep impact on people's lives. It could be a matter of life and death, etc. Or he would take decisions regarding the purchase of equipment worth crores of rupees, and the whole day he would be doing this, taking very, very important decisions. But when he came home at night and he wanted to order a pizza or he wanted to order food, he just wouldn't be able to take that very simple decision. And he was wondering, why is this happening to me? Until he read your book and understood that by the time your mind has gone through the whole day, it's so tired that it can't anymore take even the simplest of decisions. So can you please talk about this decision fatigue?
Absolutely, and it's affecting. I think it's a generational thing. First of all, address that, and of course, when someone is in a profession which demands that kind of attention throughout the day, that does make a lot of sense. So what happens is, understanding it. Every decision that we take, so whether it is to order pizza or whether it is to for him, like ordering an equipment. For the brain, it's the same amount of stress. And like we mentioned earlier, that's why there are CEOs who just wear black and white, black and white through the day, so then they can avoid that. Now, there's an interesting research that was done with judges in when there's time to come for payroll. So
yes.
yeah, payroll, right? So there are so what would happen is, from morning there would be the jail inmates who would have their numbers set when they would appear for payroll and for bail, and they would all the time they said that in the morning, the slots in the morning, they got bail or payroll faster. But by the time it was afternoon, the judges were fatigued, and most of the time the inmates who had their numbers come up during the afternoon did not get a bail or a payroll, and then they had to kind of come back again. So that is the impact of decision fatigue on us, and that's why I write about it in the book, that how do you counter that? How do you counter decision fatigue? Because for example, another thing that we don't even realize that we are making these decisions. 30 years ago, petrol bunk would sell only petrol, but now you get everything from chocolate. So you're standing there to pay for your petrol and your eyes are like, should I buy this chocolate? Should I buy this? It's just grabbing attention, or you have these WhatsApp messages coming up every time. So whereas 30 years ago, life was much simpler. There were not so many things taking your attention. Now there is that added on, and then the decision fatigue. So it all piles up. So putting systems in place, which is very important. How do we reduce the number of decisions that we take, especially if it's repetitive decisions? How can we then remove that stress from ourselves, so that when time comes for critical decisions, we have a little bit of bandwidth left? And mindfulness practices, that is where grounding and mindfulness comes in, so that you have the power left to listen to your intuition, to understand whether it is fear or intuition, because it gets lost in all the chaos in our mind. And so simple things that you can do, being mindful. I talk about decluttering in the book. So there are a lot of small things that added up. The only thing is there's no magic pill. This is something that has to be done on a regular basis. There has to be a conscious awareness around it, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There are ways to kind of get over this decision fatigue, and that is where, for critical decisions, meanwhile you have tools like that help.
So you just now said that times have changed, and so in actual fact we live in times where we have to do things that we have not seen our parents do. We are the first generation that has to take such kind of thousands of decisions every day, because there's so much of variety, so much of choice, so much of means. We have the means to buy stuff, we have the means to do all sorts of things in a day which our parents never did. So following that same logic, if this habit of knowing how to take decisions in a day can be taken by adults, it can also be like an example to the children who are growing up with their parents and who see their parents taking these decisions, and they grow up knowing this is what I will have to do when I become an adult, and I will have to probably they will learn as a life experience to see, by seeing that this is how it is done. So in actual fact, probably this is something that people need to learn in order to pass it on, not only for themselves but also to their children. So can you say something about this? Also, I want you to say something about decluttering, because that's a very important point.
Absolutely, I think that's a great way of looking at it, because yes, children, I think materially we have reached a stage as a society where materially it's abundant, right? So what do you really pass on to your children? And decision making is one of those key skills. So whatever I've also written in the book, decluttering, which I will come to as well, and also kind of organizing your day, having systems in place where you take help from others, and having your delegating work. So all these things, you can actually involve children. And decluttering is a very great way to start that, because our space affects our mind, and a lot of people do not make the correlation. Most people live in chaos, and I've seen most of the time, when you're really engrossed, when you're really good at your work, but then your home space is a mess, and no matter what you do, it just comes back. But just to step back and look at really creative people and successful people, they actually spend money to have their spaces curated, and because they understand that that affects the way of thinking and takes off the pressure, and it brings in clarity. So that is something that that is something you can involve your children into. Help them, teach them by example, of course, and kind of observe how it makes a change in your thinking. There's a lot of lightness that comes in, even by organizing a small area in your house. And when they see that, our parents are not getting that flustered, our parents are a little calmer now, they have systems in place, so it's okay if things didn't work out a certain way, or the day goes really smoothly, they're not struggling to have these small decisions. I think that inspires them. And nothing like empowering the kids with decision making. I think that's the best thing that can take them forward.
Are there people who come to you who ask you some question and then they get an answer from you, and do they come back afterwards to say, oh, it worked out exactly this way, or oh, it didn't work out at all for me, I should not have come and asked you anything? Has this happened to you?
Yes, it does. So people do come back, and I've been fortunate that most of the time it is like, yes, it did happen the way that you said. But here's the thing. So when I give advice, it's not about, okay, this will happen. There's a point of prediction to it. There's a lot of self-work. So there are people who do the work and they see the result. And there are people who are not ready to put in the work and then they don't see the result the same way. So, for example, and it's mostly like, have some patience or have some awareness about yourself. And there are people who do sincerely kind of look within, and they get amazing results. So I do, even after a year. Just recently I had someone who after a year almost of silence messaged me and said, hey, whatever you said came true the way it is exactly. And now he came back for another session.
Actually, very often there are two options, and both options can lead to something not necessarily good or bad. I mean, if you take option A, something will happen, and if you take option B, something else will happen. But this also has its plus minus, and that also has its plus minus. So it's a question of never regretting and saying, oh, I should have done that instead of this, because you don't know what that would have led to ultimately.
Absolutely. And I think free will is very important, right? We have a lot of choices. Destiny has its way of, coming by passing through. But, when you give someone that option that, hey, this is, even if there's a struggle in option A and then there's not a struggle in option B, you can still choose to go by option A and face the struggle, and, it's about taking ownership at the end of the day and then empowering the other person.
Yes, like you said, free will plays a large role. You have to also believe in that some things are in the possibilities, and some things you take responsibility for choosing that. What you choose, you take responsibility for it, and you say, this is what I wanted.
Absolutely, and that empowers people. It's no longer like, this happened because of fate, or this happened because so and so told me to do it and I did it. That's always like a blame game. But understanding that, hey, I knew what I was getting into, so whatever it is, I will face it. And that kind of over time, because there are some clients who've been with me for years, and the point is not to be dependent on tarot also, to reach a point where you can take your own decisions, to get so in tune with your inner voice that you don't need a tool ultimately. Right. So that is where, I kind of push people towards.
That's really great. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, your experience, your knowledge. And I hope a lot of people buy these books. This book is available on Amazon. You can order it from Amazon, and if you are living in Pondicherry, you can go to Focus Bookshop and buy it.
Yeah, Focus Bookshop, it's available, and also Netaji Bookshop.
And this priced at 350 rupees. So you can easily buy it and have a good read, and if you believe it, very good. If not, it's anyway a good read.
And I do share some tips which you can apply instantly. So it's and it is not going to teach you tarot. So this book is not about learning tarot. It's just about understanding what it is and how it can help you. So do check it out, and also check out my website thorvidamle.com, where you can check out my blogs and podcasts as well.
Yes, that there is much more to it than
Yeah.
just the book. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sunayana. Thank you.